So today I'm going to show you a triple stamping technique. It really kind of elevates your card, and I think this is perfect card that's going to be a sympathy card, but you can use it for many things. And you can use many different stamps with it. So first, you're going to need a 4 by 5 1/4 cardstock. Then you're going to need 3 by 4 1/4, and you're going to need a 2 by 3 and 3 1/4. And what you're going to do is, if you have repositionable adhesive, you're going to use that. I do not, but it will not matter using the permanent adhesive because I'm not going to use very much. Just going to put some down in the center, and I'm just going to layer these on top of each other. Now again, you can use this with many different stamps, and I'm going to show you how this works. So I'm going to put it in my MISTI, and you can put it wherever you want. I have this tree line impression card stamp that I'm going to use, this cling one. So I want to put this down kind of in the middle so I can get a lot of this stamp onto this card. So I'm going to put this down, and I'm going to actually move this and take my magnet to hold the part where the trees are here. Alright, and then I'm going to put this down on my MISTI. Next, what I'm going to do is get out 2 distressed inks. If you have a brown ink pad, which I do not, you can just use a brown ink pad. But for this, I'm going to layer these 2 distressed inks on here, onto the stamp pad. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going, to put one down really well all over. I thought distressed ink would really make this stamp pop out. So I'll ink that up good. And then, just to get another little effect, I'll take the tea dye one, and I will stamp this all over and just kind of rub here. That might actually work out better for me. And come back and kind of stamp that around. Alright, so then I'm going to take this over to my MISTI, and I'm going to actually stand up and press this down and get some pressure on it so it gets a nice stamp to it. And then you'll see my image and the varied colors in my image. So next, what I want to do is just clean off this stamp, and I'm going to use my Lawn Fawn stamp Shammy. And yes, I know it sounds like chalkboard. Alright, we'll take this off and set it to the side. And next, we will take this out of the MISTI. And while this looks pretty on its own, we are going to make some mats to go on here to give it even more of a beautiful effect. Now, so that you can see this, I have made a 4 1/4 card base by 5 1/2, and I'm going to put the 4 and 5 1/2 card base that we cut and stamped out on here. So I'll just put some adhesive down. Next, I'm going to need a 3 1/4 by 4 1/2 card base, which I have here, and I'm going to stick this down. And even though this kind of stuck on here, it's not going to matter. This won't matter either. You'll see as you layer it. So one of my little edges is up there, and I don't particularly like that. So I'm just going to push that down. Somehow I messed that up. Alright, so then we're going to need a 2 1/4 by 3 1/2 card base. And we're going to put some adhesive down on this card base. And I decided to use the craft cardstock. I think it really pops it out. And we will be putting this down here. So we'll put our card base on here, and you can see where that adhesive was. It's covered up. And then we'll kind of line up our trees that we have here and put this down. And then we'll get our next card base, and we're going to layer it on top of here. And I think this makes a gorgeous sympathy card to send. So you'll put this on front of your A2 card and line up the trees here. And it really looks like you have done a lot, and those trees have just popped out on that card base. And you can layer this on top of a card, and we can put a sentiment across here. But I want to show you how you can take these colors and make your own cardstock. So we have our 3 pieces of cardstock, and I'll start on the smallest part of this cardstock. And I've just put a brown piece of paper down. If you have your Tim Holtz mat, which I'm not going to get out, you can use that. Just for this example, I'm going to use this. So I'm going to take my vintage die, and I'm just going to brush this down on the sides, because that is what's going to appear for the mats. I can just turn this around, and then I can get some of the tea dye, and I can come in here with that. And I'm just doing the sides just to add some contrast and interest to look like the trees. So next, I'll use my next card base, and I'll do the same thing. I'll come around. This way I don't have to buy my own, buy exact color cardstock to match this. You can just make your own. And because it's got varied colors in it, I think it's really going to look pretty. I think these 2 colors together almost look like a leather color that I've been admiring online lately. So I'm just using now the tea dye to come down in here and just add those pops of highlight that goes around. So then the next one, I'll do the same thing too. I start out with vintage photo. You can put as much down as you want. You could make this really dark if you want. I don't really want that for this card, but for distressed inks or distressed oxides, you can lay on as much as you'd like. And I'm just going to continue to go through. And I just love the effect of the color of this. And even though this is getting color on it here, we can use this paper for other projects because it has that distressed colors on there. So now we'll come back in and we'll highlight it with our tea dye. You can just see that subtle difference that I like. Really want to get some more over here. And this is just a blending brush that you can use, and because they're both brown, I can just use the same brush because I'm blending them over top of each other. And now we will layer these. I have stamped off screen another set of these, and we'll see how beautiful this looks together. So we'll go ahead and put our adhesive on here. Layer that down. And then we'll put our adhesive on this one. And, oh, well now look, I've made a mistake. That's not what I'm supposed to do. I have cut 2 of these the same size. So let me just remedy this situation. So we know we'll get out my Tim Holtz cutter, and this mat should be 4.5 by 3.25. Alright, so we'll just remedy this situation. We've made a mistake, but that's what happens in crafting. We'll get out our vintage. We'll put that down. Look at there. Just fix our mistake. That's what we do. We don't have to start over. We just cut that cardstock back down. Alright, so now get this back out here. Alright, we'll put this down. Well, actually, what I like to do is place this on this mat first. And remember, that's covered up, so we don't have to worry about that. Just move some stuff out of the way. And we'll put this down. Because remember, I like to line up these tree branches when I put this down. So we'll go here and we'll line that up. All right. And now we will take this and adhere it to the back of this cardstock that we've created. All right. We'll put that down. And then I'll add some more adhesive here. And we'll line up those tree trunks. And isn't that gorgeous? That is our own color cardstock that we've created. And then you have this one on the craft cardstock. And you can now add your sentiment on top of these. And you can even add some falling snow if you would like to, or little bits of snow in different places in the tree if you want to. But I'm going to leave mine plain today. And you can use this with other stamp sets, and I'll show you how that is, and then I'll show you the finished product for these. Alright, so let's say that you don't have a MISTI. I've pulled this out. It's a pad that goes inside the MISTI, but there's also stamp pads, but I'm just going to use this as a pad, and I'm going to use a wood block stamp that I have to do the same technique. So I will take this again and position this down for this technique. And this time, instead of using distressed ink, I'm going to use a Stampin' Up ink. You can use any kind of pigment ink. And I'm going to lay this stamp down, and because it's a block stamp, I want to just really make sure this thing is covered, because when you're dealing with block stamps, you only get one shot. So I just really want to make sure this thing is inked up good. I'm going to hope that's inked up good. Alright, so for this, I'm going to do it a couple ways. I'm going to come down here at the bottom, and I'm going to stamp this little block. And then I'm going to do another color. So I'm going to wipe this off. And you can see, unlike the MISTI, I can't go in and get that completely perfect, but I'll just so you see a deep gumball green. Next, I'm going to use Memento Dandelion, and I'm going to stamp this one. So again, I'm going to ink it up really well. And I'm going to raise this up a little so it's kind of higher in the center of the card, and press it down good. So there we go. Got a little bit of green in there. That's okay. We'll wipe it off with our stamp. That's just because I didn't clean it well. But that's all right because, you know, we're going to do Lawn Fawn Mermaid next to add some color to it. Alright, so I like to ink it up many ways as I can. Really make sure that color comes off on there. Alright, and then we're going to go back down a little lower and stamp again. Alright, so that's really pretty. A lot of different colors. I just kind of want to show you how you can use different colors, and now we'll cut our layers. So to show you the final product, this is one that says Sharing in Sorrow, and I'll put this on top of a card base, an A2 card. I've just added the craft cardstock, and I colored it up to emphasize the Sharing in Sorrow, but you wouldn't have to do that. I created this cardstock using the same colors in the background. This was a piece left over that I trimmed off when I made the mistake, and I cut this with scissors to make the little V's, and then I stamped this in the MISTI, the word thanks, and I can put this on top of an A2 card. And I highly recommend when you put it on top of the A2 card you use a strong adhesive because there are many layers to it. And then last but not least, my wood block stamp. I used 3 colors on here to pop out the gumball green, the yellow, as well as the blue. And I can put this on a card base. And I just stamped the word thanks. But you could also layer it on if you wanted to. But I just kind of like the look of this. And it's really pretty and cheery. So thanks for stopping by, and come back next week to see my next creation. And if you like this, give it a thumbs up. Thanks!